The story begins in a town called Edge, where many people have gathered inside an old museum to see its priceless historical artifacts. At the same time, a tour guide is explaining the rare exhibits displayed throughout the museum. He first shows them a painting of Odin, the father of the gods, and then starts talking about Loki, the god of mischief and trickery. The guide explains that Loki once created a magical mask, and whoever wears it can gain incredible powers just like Loki himself. Just then, a mysterious man dressed in a black suit quietly reaches out to touch the mask, but the guide immediately stops him because visitors are not allowed to touch any museum exhibits. Smiling confidently, the man says that he is the real Loki. In the very next moment, he transforms into his true form and begins pulling lightning down from the sky. Seeing this terrifying sight, everyone inside the museum panics and runs in every direction. Taking advantage of the chaos, Loki rushes toward the mask only to discover that the one on display is not the real mask, but merely a fake replica. Furious with rage, he brutally kills a man and stuffs his body inside the same glass display case. Just then, the security guards charge in to capture him, but Loki unleashes his magical powers against them. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet splits open, and every guard falls straight into the massive pit below. Now, the story takes a different turn. The real magical mask is floating down a river. Just then, a dog named Otis spots it, picks it up, and carries it back home. After that, we meet Tim and his wife Tanya, who are driving back to their house. On the way, Tanya tells Tim that she wants to become a mother, but Tim feels that the timing still is not right. Hearing this, Tanya becomes upset. As soon as they get home, she walks straight into her room without saying a word and shuts the door behind her. Tim tries his best to make her feel better, but she refuses to listen to him. In the end, Tim starts playing with his dog, Otis. At that moment, Otis brings him the strange-looking mask, but Tim has no idea that it is anything more than an ordinary mask. Meanwhile, Loki's father is furious with him. He warns Loki that if the magical mask falls into the hands of a human, it could bring disaster to the entire world, so he must find it as quickly as possible. The next day, Tim meets his boss Daniel at work, a famous animator. Tim tries to impress him with a brand new idea, but he fails. That evening, after returning home, he gives Tanya a sweet gift to apologize for their argument. Just then, he has to leave for his company's Halloween party. Since he has no costume, Tanya suggests that he wear the same mask Otis had brought home. Left with no other choice, Tim heads to the party wearing the mask, but the moment he puts it on, it suddenly locks onto his face by itself. Within seconds, Tim transforms into a bizarre yet incredibly powerful version of himself, blessed with magical abilities just like Loki. He makes a grand entrance at the party in complete style. Everyone there is feeling bored, so Tim uses his new powers to turn the entire event into an unforgettable spectacle. His unbelievable performance leaves everyone amazed, especially his boss. Even after the party is over, Tim returns home in the same magical form and spends the entire night having fun with Tanya. The next morning at the office, everyone is praising Tim for his incredible performance at the Halloween party the night before. But surprisingly, Tim cannot remember a single thing that happened that night. Just then, his boss calls him into his office and tells him to create a brand new animation project inspired by the unique style he showed at the party. Hearing this, Tim is overjoyed and rushes home to share the exciting news with Tanya. Meanwhile, Tanya has some big news of her own. She believes that she might be pregnant. The two visit a doctor, and after the examination, they learn that they are truly going to become parents. Suddenly, Tanya feels like she is about to throw up, but instead of vomiting, colorful soap bubbles begin floating out of her mouth. Even after this strange incident, they continue living their lives as usual, and sometime later, they welcome a baby boy into the world, whom they name Alvie. On the other hand, Loki is still wandering around in search of the magical mask. During his search, he arrives at a warehouse where his father Odin possesses the body of a shopkeeper and tells him that a child has now been born with the powers of the mask. Odin orders Loki to find the child and recover the mask at any cost. Meanwhile, Tim keeps searching for the mask around the house because he believes it might inspire him with a brilliant idea for his new project, but he has no idea that Otis has hidden the mask inside his new doghouse. In fact, after the baby arrived, Otis lost his old room to him, leaving the dog feeling a little jealous. Unable to find the mask, Tim leaves for work while Tanya stays home to take care of little Alvie. While playing with him, she blows up a balloon and suddenly Alvie's head begins inflating just like the balloon. A few moments later, it returns completely to normal. Standing nearby, Otis witnesses the entire scene with his own eyes and becomes even more jealous of Alvie. Around the same time, Loki disguises himself as a bee and heads to the hospital in search of the child. There, he frightens the receptionist with his sting and takes on her appearance. After that, he checks the list of all the babies born that day and finally begins his real hunt. On the other hand, Tim slowly begins to realize that becoming a father is not easy at all. Because of Alvie's constant crying. He and Tanya are unable to sleep properly for many nights. One night, Tim becomes so exhausted that he almost gives the baby a light bulb instead of a milk bottle by mistake. Just then, Alvie uses his mysterious powers and wakes Tim up before it is too late. However, Tim has no idea that his son has just used magic. The next morning, Tanya tells him that she has to leave the city for an entire week because of work. Hearing this, Tim becomes even more worried because during the same week, he also has to present his new cartoon project to a television network. Now, he has to manage both his office work and take care of little Alvie all by himself. So, he asks his boss for permission to work from home, and luckily, his boss agrees. After that, Tanya says goodbye to both of them and leaves for her trip. After she leaves, Tim tries his best to complete his work, but Alvie keeps crying non-stop. He tries every possible way to calm him down, yet nothing works. Another sleepless night passes by, while at the same time, his boss keeps pressuring him to finish the project quickly. After some time, Tanya calls to check on both of them. The moment Alvie hears his mother's voice, he happily says, "Mommy," for the first time. Hearing this, Tim becomes extremely happy and wants his son to say, "Daddy," as well. But Alvie says, "Mommy," again. This time, his voice does not sound like a small baby anymore, but like a grown man's voice. The moment Tim hears it, he freezes in fear and shock. On the other hand, Loki starts visiting the homes of the children on his list and begins checking each one of them. First, he arrives at a woman's house, disguised as a salesman, and starts showing her a new vacuum cleaner. As the woman tries to use it, Loki uses his magical powers to make the machine extremely powerful, causing it to pull the woman inside. After that, he carefully looks at the child living there, but soon realizes that the kid has no magical abilities. He is just an ordinary child who gets angry and throws a doll at Loki's face. Meanwhile, Tim returns home and tries to work on his project, but little Alvie does not let him focus even for a moment. Finally, he is forced to place him in front of the television and play some old cartoons for him, even though Tanya had already warned him not to do that. However, this method works, and Alvie quietly starts watching the cartoons. Tim immediately takes advantage of the opportunity, gets back to his work, and asks Otis to keep an eye on the baby. But Otis goes outside to his doghouse and starts searching for the same magical mask he had hidden there. After a lot of effort, he finally finds the mask. The moment he puts it on, he transforms into a strange and powerful dog with magical abilities. Meanwhile, Alvie is watching a cartoon on television with full attention, where a man discovers a frog that only sings and dances when he is the only one watching. The man tries to make money from it, but whenever someone else sees the frog, it becomes completely normal. In the end, nobody believes his story, and they send him to a mental hospital thinking he is crazy. Alvie enjoys watching the cartoon, completely unaware that on the other side, Otis has already worn the mask and is now planning to get rid of him forever. The next morning, Tim sits down to work on his project again, but he still cannot come up with any good ideas for his presentation. Just then, little Alvie starts perfectly copying the singing and dancing frog he saw on television. Seeing this, Tim is completely shocked. The very next moment, Alvie's appearance begins to change and his head transforms into something like a cartoon character. Then he starts jumping and causing chaos throughout the entire house. Alvie runs into the kitchen and Tim quickly follows behind him. Panicking, Tim calls emergency services and explains that his son is doing things that are impossible for any normal human being. But the officer on the phone thinks he is joking and hangs up the call. Frustrated, Tim goes to his neighbor for help and tells him everything, but he also refuses to believe him. To prove that he is telling the truth, Tim asks Alvie to perform the same trick again. But just like the frog from the cartoon, Alvie acts like a completely normal baby in front of others. Tim becomes even more worried. In panic, he starts shaking Alvie, but the neighbor misunderstands the situation and angrily throws him out of his house. After some time, Tim returns home and tries to take care of Alvie. Suddenly, Alvie grabs his leg and starts throwing him around the room like he is nothing more than a toy. At that exact moment, Otis arrives wearing the mask and tries to distract Alvie by giving him a toy. But it is not a toy. It is actually a bomb. Alvie immediately realizes the danger and puts out its fuse. Then he creates an explosion sound with his mouth and runs away. Hearing the noise, Otis believes that his plan has worked and the baby is finally gone. Just as he starts celebrating, he receives a large bone as a reward. But the moment he begins chewing it, the bone also turns into a bomb and explodes. However, thanks to the magical powers of the mask, Otis survives. Even after this, he refuses to give up and starts creating another clever and more dangerous plan to get rid of Alvie. As the day comes to an end, Otis enters the house to carry out his new dangerous plan. Just then, Tim notices him. He sees that Otis is no longer an ordinary dog, but is transformed into a strange magical creature with several dangerous weapons. Seeing this terrifying sight, Tim becomes so frightened that he faints right there. Without paying any attention to him, Otis heads straight to Alvie's Alvie's room. There, he uses a rope and a plunger to climb up to the ceiling. As soon as he gets the chance, he secretly reaches Alvie's crib and attaches a hook to the baby's diaper. His plan is to use a special machine to lift the baby and pull him out of the house. But Otis has no idea that Alvie has quietly come up behind him. Taking advantage of the moment, Alvie attaches the hook of the same machine to Otis's collar. The moment Otis turns on the machine, he himself gets lifted into the air. Meanwhile, Tim wakes up and rushes to help. But by then, it is already too late. Otis gets trapped inside a piano, crashes through an air duct, then hits the ceiling fan, and finally falls outside the house. But his trouble does not end there. The machine keeps dragging him around again and again. He falls into a dirty bathtub, crashes through different parts of the house, and finally ends up inside a washing machine, where the rollers squeeze him badly. Just then, Alvie floats toward him like a balloon, and after a powerful collision, knocks the magical mask off Otis's face. The moment the mask comes off, he turns back into an ordinary dog. However, during this entire chaos, almost every item inside the house has been damaged. Even after all this, Tim focuses on taking care of his son and prepares to change his diaper. Just then, Loki arrives at the front door disguised as a delivery man and hands Tim a package. Tim gets busy opening the package and leaves Alvie with the delivery man for a short time. Loki uses this opportunity to carefully examine Alvie, but since the baby looks completely normal at that moment, he does not become suspicious and leaves from there. Meanwhile, as soon as Tim opens the package, a giant boxing glove suddenly comes out and punches him directly in the face, knocking him unconscious. After some time, when he wakes up, he decides that he must take Alvie to a children's doctor because he starts believing that some evil force might be affecting his son. He places Alvie in the car and drives toward the hospital. On the way, Alvie suddenly turns his head completely backward and then spits out a strange green substance inside the car. Seeing all this, Tim becomes even more terrified, but he has no idea that Loki is secretly following them. After witnessing everything with his own eyes, Loki becomes certain that Alvie is the son of the person who wore the magical mask. Sometime later, Tim reaches the children's hospital and walks inside. Loki also follows him there, but he parks his vehicle in the wrong place. Because of this, a police officer comes to stop him. Without thinking twice, Loki knocks the officer unconscious and then directly confronts Tim, demanding that he return the magical mask. Tim repeatedly says that he does not know where the mask is, but Loki refuses to believe him and creates a massive axe in his hand. Just then, Odin arrives by taking control of a security guard's body and tries to stop Loki. Taking advantage of the moment, Tim tries to escape with Alvie, but Loki creates a huge iron wall in front of them. After that, he magically creates a large suitcase, pulls out a giant grenade from inside it, and throws it toward Tim and Alvie. At that moment, Alvie transforms both of his arms into shields and protects his father from the explosion. Seeing his son's incredible power, Tim is completely shocked, but the battle is not over yet. Loki transforms into his true form and creates a massive ball of fire. Just then, Odin steps in once again. He briefly takes control of Tim's body, causing powerful electricity to shoot out from him and removing Loki's divine powers. At the same time, Alvie also reveals his magical abilities. He stretches his arms like rubber, grabs Loki, and slams him hard between two trash cans. Loki falls unconscious, and Alvie picks him up and throws him inside a garbage bin. It seems like everything has finally become peaceful, but then Tim receives a call from his boss. He immediately orders him to come to the studio and show his project. Worried and confused, Tim reaches the television station carrying Alvie in his arms. The producers are waiting to see his work, but he has nothing prepared to show them. Seeing this, they fire him on the spot and have him removed from the building. After that, Tim calls Tanya and tells her about all the strange events that happened throughout the day. He says that even though the day was extremely difficult, spending so much time with his son Alvie made him finally understand what it truly means to be a father. After ending the call, Tim lovingly gives Alvie a bath, puts him to sleep, and then both of them peacefully fall asleep. But that same night, Loki secretly sneaks into the house once again. He goes straight to Alvie's room and draws mysterious symbols on the wall near the crib before chanting a spell that makes Odin appear in front of him. Loki tells him that he has finally found the child who possesses the mask's powers and asks for his divine abilities back. Odin agrees to his request, but places one condition. He gives Loki only 1 hour to bring back the magical mask and repair all the damage damage he has caused. The moment Loki regains his powers, he immediately begins his mission. Just then, the neighbor arrives there for some work. Loki uses his magical abilities to transform his face into a terrifying appearance and scares him badly. Hearing the noise, Tim wakes up. He rushes to Alvie's room, but instead of seeing his son inside the crib, he sees Loki's face. This frightens him completely. Suddenly, he hears Tanya's voice, but moments later, he discovers that it was another illusion created by Loki. Finally, Loki reveals his true form and threatens Tim that if he does not bring the magical mask to him within 1 hour, he will never see Alvie again. Saying this, he grabs Alvie and escapes through the roof. A little later, Tanya returns home. Seeing the destroyed condition of the house, she becomes shocked. The frightened Tim mistakes her for Loki as well and attacks her. But the very next moment, he realizes his mistake, apologizes, and tells her the entire truth. At first, Tanya does not believe him, but then the neighbor arrives with a magically transformed giant nose. Seeing this, Tanya finally believes that Tim was telling the truth. Both of them immediately start preparing to rescue Alvie. They know that only Otis knows the way to reach the magical mask. Meanwhile, Otis has once again worn the mask and is having fun with a female dog from the neighborhood. Just then, Tim finds him and asks for his help in saving Alvie. This time, Otis agrees to help. He removes the mask and hands it to Tim so they can work together and bring Alvie back. On the other hand, Loki is having fun using his magical powers while playing with Alvie. During their game, they imagine themselves as two Wild West gunslingers. Loki fires first with a fake revolver, but Alvie somehow gets a real magical gun in his hands. He fires it only to scare Loki and does not hurt him. Just then, Tim and Tanya arrive there. They tell Loki to return Alvie and take the magical mask in exchange. At first, Loki agrees to the deal, but at the last moment he changes his mind and decides to keep Alvie with him. Suddenly, Otis jumps on him and bites him. Because of the impact, the mask flies into the air. Tim quickly catches it, wears it, and once again becomes filled with magical powers. Seeing this, Loki starts running away. Tim also uses his new powers to transform his car into a powerful machine. Tanya and Otis sit inside the car with him, and all three begin chasing Loki together. To stop them, Loki uses magic to lift the entire road into huge waves, but Tim refuses to give up and continues the chase. Eventually, Loki reaches a boxing ring and challenges Tim to a fight. A massive battle begins between them. Because Loki is more skilled with magic, he has the advantage over Tim at first, but Tim refuses to surrender. He attacks Loki with a suitcase, traps him inside it, and throws it into the ocean. Meanwhile, Tanya frees Alvie from a cage, and the three of them try to escape from there. Suddenly, Loki returns and uses magic to create a giant pencil that blocks their path. Tim attacks with several toy weapons, but Loki transforms them into flowers. Then he strikes Tim with the giant pencil, but Tim uses a huge sharpener to cut it apart. Despite this, the pencil joins back together, and Loki stands in front of them once again. When both sides realize that this battle will never end this way, Loki says that Alvie himself will decide who he wants to go with. He tries to win the child over by showing him different games and magical tricks, but then Tim surprises everyone by removing the mask from his face. He tells his son that because of him, he has become a better person and a better father than before, and that he is extremely proud of him. Hearing Tim's true feelings, Alvie calls him daddy for the first time and chooses to stay with his parents without any hesitation. Seeing this, Loki becomes furious and summons a giant hammer to destroy everyone. Tim uses all his strength to protect his family, but Loki pulls out a drill from the hammer and injures him. Just when it seems like everything is about to end, Odin appears there. He announces that Loki's time is over and that he must now face the consequences of his actions. But Tim requests Odin to forgive Loki. He says that a father's heart knows how to forgive before choosing punishment. Tim's words touch Odin's heart. He forgives Loki and takes him back to the world of the gods. Before leaving, Odin takes the magical mask with him so that it can never become a problem for anyone again. The next day, Tim meets his former boss and shares a new animation idea inspired by the unforgettable experiences he had with his son. His boss loves the idea so much that they work together to create an amazing cartoon, which becomes a huge success. That same night, during the premiere, the entire family celebrates happily. Suddenly, Tanya smiles and reveals that she's going to become a mother again. Hearing this wonderful news, Tim's happiness knows no limits. So, how did you like this movie? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this recap, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories like this. See you in the next video.